Of the Idel Kaba public holiday for 2020, and it's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. July 31st, the last day of July. Isn't that interesting? And what better way to start it with the Political Economic Watch, where we converse around developments in the economy and how it affects policies and investments. You're welcome to the Economy and Politics Show. I guess you're at home, wherever you are, relaxing, reflecting on the month, reflecting on the week, and of course, you will be on to listen to some very, very few but critical insights this morning. Here's a lineup for what we were discussing today. COVID-19 index. The federal government provides clarification on their Zaria power project, that's independent power project. And globally, tech developments that should be of interest to you and what's happening in terms of vaccines for COVID-19 and just some nuggets of what really made impact in the month of July 2020. Let's begin with the COVID-19 index and countries with major cases. It comes to the fore. Very important to know those countries, those economies that still have huge cases as we continue to see the globe adjust and try to navigate through the unprecedented novel coronavirus, which is the biggest, huge, impactful pandemic since 1918. At the moment, we have over 16.8 million cases confirmed across the globe. And here are the updates on the nations accounting for the major spikes in the globe. Top 10, that's what we want to go to. But at the global stage, the following countries, here they are, out of 210 countries that now have confirmed cases. The first is the United States of America. It has over 4.3 million cases of COVID-19. Second is Brazil from South America with over 2.4 million cases. India has over 1.5 million cases now. Russia is number 4 with over 830,000 cases. South Africa has over 470,000 cases. So South Africa is in the top 5 and Africa's leading nation with the highest cases of COVID-19. Mexico is 6th with over 405,000 cases. Peru has over 351,000 cases to be 7th. Chile is 8th with over 340,000 cases. United Kingdom has over 301,000 cases to be 9th, and Iran makes it up to 10 with over 290,000 cases. So those are the countries with the highest cases, and definitely you will now understand if they take very, very tough measures in terms of travels, in terms of tourism, in terms of reopening fully the economy. There's been so much debate in the US. I mean, the result of this coming in, President Trump discussing about the possibilities of reviewing the election in November, if it will be adjusted and all that. That is a huge debate, but not for today. Just to show you how this whole discourse around COVID-19 seems to impact the economies and the market and politics. So United States of America, Brazil, and India remain the top 3 countries with the highest cases. And when you go down in terms of the 210 countries with confirmed cases, the top 3 still remain 3 countries you will not really know. I mean, if you don't broaden your understanding of geography and current affairs. St. Barth, St. Pierre-et-Miquelon, and Anguilla. I can guess that you've not heard those countries. But now you know, because this pandemic has hit over 200 nations and it's unprecedented, like I said earlier. Now, let's go on to Nigeria. And of course, it's been the major news in the last 48 hours. And it's a very, very critical issue that people must take note of in the country. Now, over the past week, there's been an unnecessary controversy about the Zaria Edo Independent Power Project, especially the concerns about who signed the transaction documents and who did not sign, thus ignoring the consequences of backing out of agreements by the federal government. So the federal government, the presidency, has issued a statement on this, and here is how it goes. The Zaria Edo IPP is a functional 461 megawatt power plant. It is owned by a group of investors led and by an internationally reputed firm, Actis, and includes the Edo state government as part of the investment consortium. Presently, the plant supplies over 8% of the power on Nigeria's national grid. Clearly, the controversy as to who signed the agreements has no real basis, if indeed the only quest is for the plain truth. And since the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari has chosen not to repudiate the deal, it went ahead to issue the required legal opinion and sign the World Bank guarantees that have been initiated in April 2014. In fact, the main power purchase agreement was signed in 2013. If at this point the Buhari government came into office, it repudiated the contracts, the question is what would have happened? First, because there was already a valid and binding contract between the federal government and Azura Edo that would have led to an international case similar to the P&ID scenario. In the P&ID case, the federal government was sued for breaching the terms of a contract to build a gas processing plant, despite the fact no part of the plant was ever built and no government or World Bank guarantees were given. The arbitral tribunal found Nigeria liable in the sum of $9.6 billion. So clearly, guarantee is not the issue at stake here. The second consequence is that we would have simply not have, today in the country, a 461 megawatt power plant in Nigeria with a significant contribution to our national grid. And third, it would definitely have affected the credit rating and credibility of Nigeria as an investment destination. Some of the most reputable international banks and investors that were involved in the project include development finance institutions of the United States of America, United Kingdom, France, Germany, the Netherlands, and Sweden. Again, the presidency says, laying out the facts already stated in previous communication about this matter, there is no doubt at all that the binding agreements which brought about the plans were signed in 2013 and 2014. On April 22nd, 2013, the power purchase agreement was signed. So that's a statement from the presidency. Very clear about the fact that, yes, it made a contract and it wants to continue to show consistency and transparency and accountability. And before we move on, this is one area that is very important for Nigeria. We are a great nation. Nigeria is a great investment destination in Africa. Nigeria is the largest economy in Africa. But one thing that has continued to be the bane of the country is enforcement of contracts and sanctity of contracts. Those are two areas that have always created concerns for investors. And we have a long history of all this, even since our democracy, the Fourth Republic, came on to speed in 1999. And so once again, this goes to stakeholders, to policymakers, and even the private sector. We must make efforts to ensure that the enforcement of contracts, sanctity of contracts, and effective value for agreements is taken seriously in Nigeria. That is how investors, reputable banks, credit rating agencies would see us. Because when we take agreements seriously, when we are consistent, when we allow continuity in projects and do not allow policy flip-flops to come in, Nigeria will continue to be taken seriously in the global community. And I hope this sends a very strong message at this time. Let's look a bit globally at what is happening, and it's tech. China's Huawei Technologies snatched the title of the biggest smartphone seller from Samsung Electronics in the second quarter, underscoring the resilience of the China market even as global demand for phones plunged amid the pandemic. Nigeria is also a very interesting market for Huawei, and I mean, so many offices, media, companies, they use Huawei, so it's not surprising. Now look at this. Huawei shipped 55.8 million devices in the period of April to June, that's second quarter of 2020, trumping Samsung's 53.7 million, according to data from research from Canalys. The Chinese company has felt the heat of US sanctions that have disrupted its business overseas, yes, but the latest numbers shows its rising dominance in its home market. I know China is a huge population, and so Huawei is taking advantage of that. Huawei now sells nearly 2/3 of its handsets in China, which took an early hit from the coronavirus pandemic, but has since reclaimed ground as new cases have dwindled. Smartphone makers dominant in other countries are still struggling as new virus cases continue to rise. Huawei sales fell only 5% from the same quarter a year earlier, while South Korea's Samsung posted a 30% drop due to weak demand in key markets including Brazil, the United States, and Europe. So It's about leveraging your home base when all things or when all the chips are down. Now, so much has been said about Amazon, and I would also like to start with 2-3 as we go on. The first is that Amazon has been consistent in terms of its brand, in terms of its storytelling, according to Professor Aswat Damodaran, who spoke for 4 days masterclass in Coronation Capital. And that for him is why that company remains the high-valued company and brand globally. And then we also heard from Mr. Jimovia, the chairman and founder of Zenith Bank, that Amazon is an example of a brand that has continued to live with its reputation and synergize that with what it does in terms of service. So it's not surprising that we hear now that Amazon.com is not just a jack of all trades, but it's a master of them too. Not only did its e-commerce prowess help boost revenue by 40% in the second quarter of 2020, but people are also watching more Prime Video and streaming through Fire TV. Businesses are spending more on Amazon's cloud, despite higher costs as a result of the COVID-19 precautions and bonuses. The $1.5 trillion mega business is showing very few chinks. Shareholders were already braced for increasing expenses at Jeff Bezos, the founder's firm. In April, he said the company would plow all of its second quarter operating profit, which was estimated at about $4 billion at that time, back into the company. Despite spending that much on what the company called incremental COVID-19 related initiatives, operating income still climbed 87% to $5.8 billion. That's Amazon for you. That's why Amazon can afford to solidify its position elsewhere. Amazon beefed up its delivery service by leasing 12 additional cargo aircrafts through its partnership with Air Transport Services. It will face more competition from Walmart, who has always been there in the US chain and markets, but it's launching a subscription service similar to Amazon Prime, that's Walmart, and comes with one-day delivery of items. But according to Vox Tech Journal, a more captive audience, which it had last quarter, is enabling it to spend money on technology and content, whose cost rose by more than 30%. Amazon is investing more on original shows, like a TV series based on Lord of the Rings. That's one of the huge ones. It has a huge fan following that even in Nigeria. That helps to continue to close in on Netflix and keeping up with a growing list of competitors like Disney. Meanwhile, Amazon's Fire TV is expected to take the #2 spot for US streaming platforms. You heard that this year. Just ahead of gaming consoles and behind Roku, according to eMarketer. So as companies extend work from home policies into next year, Amazon Web Services, which includes cloud computing and saw revenue jump by about 30% in the quarter, should continue to benefit. You now know why Jeff Bezos and Amazon is now like the talked about brand globally. They are consistent, they are innovative, they are not resting on their oars, and COVID-19 has presented them with an opportunity to reinvent and expand their frontiers. Little wonder they are making huge revenue and huge value this period of COVID. So COVID for technology has been a boost, and it's an opportunity to really expand their frontiers. Let's get on to Europe and, of course, from North Korea and China over their suspected participation in major cyber attacks across the world. In its first ever sanctions related to cybercrime, yes, first ever, the EU targeted the Department of Special Technologies of Russian Military Intelligence Service, known as Main Directorate of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Russian Federation, it said in a statement. The bloc accused the Russian service of having carried out 2 cyber attacks in June 2017, which hit several companies in Europe, resulting in large financial losses. The service is also accused of 2 cyber attacks against Ukraine's power grid in 2015 and 2016. Most of you that follow global politics and economic issues, you remember that when President Donald Trump took his oath of office and became America's 45th president, the whole debate down the lane has been Russia influencing the elections, hacking and swaying the elections through technology. That has been at the front burner of discussions. And again, there's been talk about China from President Trump even hacking into U.S. Infrastructure, being a very deadly nation that is seeking to attack the nation through cyber, and of course North Korea too. So this again comes to the fore. EU making this very strong statement shows a signal. Cyber crime is really, really on the rise. Cyber security is even huge imperative for nations. Nigeria is not left out in terms of investing in cyber security, making sure that our systems, our gadgets, our infrastructures are well secured for the nation. And that's very important at this time. COVID-19 techs are really making waves, but cyber security remains very important. And I believe all stakeholders will take this seriously in their retinue of what they will put for investments. COVID-19 has come, but yes, it creates an opportunity for innovation in healthcare and health tech. And the vaccines, people keep saying that when we get the vaccine, things will reopen. So AstraZeneca has been one of the major global pharmaceutical firms at the forefront of seeking to bring that innovation to get its vaccines. It has been granted protection from future product liability claims related to its COVID-19 vaccine, and hopeful by most of the countries with which it has struck supply agreements, a senior executive told Reuters. With 25 companies testing their vaccine candidates on humans and getting ready to immunize 100 million of people across the world over the products that are shown to work, the question of who pays for any claims for damage in case of side effects has been a tricky point in supply negotiations. Yesterday we talked with the Federal Competition Consumer Protection Council, and I know they have to hear this because side effects, things are not really doing so well. Consumer protection becomes very important. And this is a major debate. I'm happy they're having this conversation because when you're in a rush, on a race to get vaccines, we must be sure that we have those measures to counter side effects because people just really want to get things happen, and this must not adversely affect the populations. So according to Ruth Dober, it says this is a unique situation where we as a company simply cannot take the risk if in 4 years the vaccine is showing side effects. He's a member of Astra's senior executive team, and he said that to Reuters. So the race to get vaccines has been huge. I mean, billionaire Mr. Bill Gates, founder and chairman of Microsoft, put in over $100 million to support the work of getting vaccines, and so much research has been done, not just as AstraZeneca, but in terms of the US, Gilead has been on the forefront getting support from the United States of America. And we have engaged here on our show the MDs of Namath and the MDs of May and Baker, and they've been discussing how they've been working hard to key into the innovation fund, the support fund, the 100 billion naira fund of the Central Bank of Nigeria for pharma companies to come up with innovations like vaccines that can help address the COVID impact and other related diseases. And hopefully we'll be watching to see the breakthrough because it's very important. Like the DG, Director General of the National Food Drug Administration Council, Professor Mojisola Adeniyi said, drug security is very key in Nigeria, but now we face drug insecurity. We need drugs that can be accessible to the citizens. We need drugs that are really taking local content because, yes, we can achieve that, local content, local herbs. Factored into drugs, solid research. We saw what happened in Madagascar. Everyone talk about the Madagascar syrup, but Madagascar is now having serious rise and spike in its cases. So there must be a balance between the research, the vaccine, the whole innovation investments, and the regulations. But most importantly, you're producing these vaccines or looking at these innovations for the people. There also has to be that intervention from government to make it subsidized, because I shared with you in the course of the week that some of the vaccines being created, we're looking at $40. That's huge. That's huge. Almost 10,000 naira. So imagine putting that to Nigerian population, it would not be accessible. So there has to be that nexus between the research, vaccines, the government policy, the government guarantees, and of course, the accessibility to the populace, because if that is done, it can go a long way to address the scourge and the pandemic impacts, which is really hitting over 16.8 million, not really what we are looking at. But the month of July 2020 has been interesting. Some interesting developments, of course, in the economy space and political space. just to give you some recap of it, I mean, the Central Bank of Nigeria in this month held its Monetary Policy Committee meeting and agreed to retain the monetary policy rates. 10 members attended, 8 members voted to retain, 2 said they should reduce. So it retained the monetary policy rate at 12.5%, and all other parameters remain the same at the moment. And it was also a very huge opportunity for Nigeria to reinvent itself. We've been dependent on crude oil, and now we need to really harness alternative sources of revenue. Now, it's not about diversifying the economy, because people make that mistake and say, we're diversifying our economy. No, our economy is already diversified, but we need to diversify our revenue base. That's the context I'm setting. And so President Buhari launched the Presidential Artisanal Gold Mining Initiative, PACMI, which is on board to create value in mining, particularly in the gold area. If you want to someone else that follow it, gold is part of the huge revenue earner for South Africa. If you look at South Africa, mining of gold is supplying a lot of activities to the economy. So we can go artisanal, but structured, well composed, well organized, and develop huge revenue reserves that can create hundreds of thousands of jobs for Nigerians. Don't forget, this administration is looking at lifting 100 million people out of poverty in the next 10 years. And this is one avenue that this can happen. So this happened this month, a very interesting event, which had the Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, attending, and other key players in the policy space. Also, it was a month of revelations and allegations and counter-allegations. Everybody in the country were glued to the TV sets watching the whole developments. I mean, first from the anti-graft agency, the Economic Financial Crimes Commission, where, of course, the acting chairman, Mr. Ibrahim Magu, has been suspended, and there's so much investigations and thorough probes going on in terms of his activities, which, according to the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami, there had been misappropriation of funds and activities of reckless management of the anti-graft agency. So this is what led to his suspension, and everybody has been worried that if the czar of anti-corruption is under probe, then what is the future of dealing with corruption, which is one of the agendas of President Muhammadu Buhari. So that was one of the major developments in the month. And still, of course, the Niger Delta Development Commission came to the fore, where the House of Reps carried out this probe and has been investigating the activities of how the NDDC has spent money between the period of January even to June. The Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Godswill Akpabio, also was in a spree in terms of allegations and counter-allegations with the former managing director of the NDDC, Joy Nune. That was what really took the socio-political space. Also, the same House of Representatives, they have really been on the news throughout this month. They had this probe of activities in the Federal Ministry of Labor and Productivity with Senator Chris Ngige, talking about the actions taken where they suspended the executive management of the National Nigeria Social Insurance Trust Fund, the NSITF. There were allegations of corruption there. So the House of Reps invited the minister to ask questions, to investigate those allegations of corruption. And then also, of course, Minister of State for Labor and Productivity, Mr. Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, was also engaged in his own exchange of words and disagreements with the House of Reps committee, who said that the 774th view that it had to be open if they want to do that. So that whole misunderstanding came to the fore again and raised a lot of concerns across the country. The House of Reps again invited Minister of Transportation, Right Honorable Rotimi Amechi, talking about the whole Chinese contract deals and the activities in terms of rail transportation. And he's saying, look, you have to allow this project go on. We can go on the probe much later, but if you start this, it could really affect the whole process. So it's been more of the House of Reps being very active. The Senate also expressed displeasure with activities of the military service chiefs and even said, look, it's time, President Buhari, to really restructure, reposition your service chiefs. And of course, the presidency replied and said, when due, that will be done. So there has been so much between National Assembly and the executive. So a lot of people have felt that the 9th National Assembly, chaired by Senator Ahmed Lawan, and also Vice Chairman and Speaker of the House of Reps, Right Honorable Femi Gbajagbamila, will be like a rubber stamp assembly, but that's not the case. There's a real quest for accountability and probe. While on the other hand, executive also is making their own case on why they feel they are right in various steps. And then in the political scene, of course, you all know those following in those states, 2020 is the same candidates but reverse, major candidates. 2016, it was Mr. Godwin Obaseki on the platform of the All Progressive Congress taking on Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu of the People's Democratic Party then in that election. Mr. Obaseki won. And after 4 years, Mr. Obaseki is now in the People's Democratic Party contesting against Pastor Ize-Iyamu. And recently, once again, Comrade Damson Oshomole went to display his artistry. Comrade Oshomole is supporting, of course, Pastor Ize-Iyamu. He relayed that 2016 experience again, went to the grassroots, went to one of those local spaces and took the roasted corn. So the question is, will that roasted corn antics, will it work again differently this time for Pastor Ize-Iyamu? We'll be watching that September 19th elections in Edo State. And Ondo State also is having its gubernatorial election in this year, and of course the primaries were done in both major parties, and of course Governor Rotimi Akeredolu emerged the candidates of the All Progressive Congress, so he's going for a second term, while Mr. Iyitayo Jegede came up from the People's Democratic Party. So it's going to be a very, very intense political space. Let's see, will APC snatch the two states, or will it be a reverse for the People's Democratic Party? No wonder you can see governors, political leaders in both parties are not resting on their oars. They know that this is a chance to assert their party's grip on the political space, and they know that if they do that, they can really sail. So it's been a very interesting month, and so much has happened, and we will continue to always give you updates as they come. We'll give you analysis, reports. We've had interesting interviews, and it's been a very, very, very wonderful month. So to all our viewers, we thank you for being always there, watching, taking notes, gaining analysis, and even your comments and your views, even engaging us on social media. We do appreciate that. Keep them coming, because we're here to continue to give you insights into the political economic space. And that will be a wrap for the Economy and Politics show. It has been interesting doing this with you for the month of July, and of course to all our Muslim brothers observing the Eid al-Kabir, once again, greetings to you this period. Please, you can send your comments and views to news@proshenji.com, and also you can join our website, www.proshenji.com, like I said, watch our videos, read our news reports and analysis. Till we come your way again, that will be in the new month of August, in whatever political economic debate and conversation you engage in, make sure it is productive and constructive. Thank you for watching, and 10 a.m. we have the market review, the last for the month of July. You don't want to miss it as we look at the financial market, capital market, and how it relates to the economy. Have a nice day and remain blessed and stay safe.